Hello everybody and welcome to a sneak peek into Ilya Muromets, the World War I Eastern Front sim, currently developed by the same developers who made Rise of Flight and are also currently developing R2 Battle of Stalingrad. So, you can actually get this game already. It's in early access phase. It's available via the developer's homepage, and I think it's also in early access phase on Steam. This game is very similar to the original Rise of Flight. There's not much going on the innovative side of things. I think the engine is pretty much the same as in Rise of Flight. There are no vast differences. The most obvious changes from Rise of Flight are of course the Ilya Muromets bomber that you can see here, and of course we also have a different set of maps. Currently there's just one in the sim with 3 different seasons to choose from, and the other thing that is new is kind of innovative mouse control for the aircraft. So I guess this is kind of inspired by War Thunder and its mouse control in the historical battles and arcade flights. I personally haven't tried it. I don't plan to try it because as an hardcore die-hard flight simmer, I don't think there is any reason to use a mouse in flight sim other than looking around or controlling a gunner position. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you the Ilya Muromets bomber. I'm going to jump into the quick mission, but first of all I'm just going to show you the options menu. There is one new option as said. You can choose between mouse input or joystick input. Everything else is pretty much the same as always. It's pretty much the same, the exact same menu as in Rise of Flight. And here we are in the quick mission screen. There's actually even a campaign already here. This is for, or mainly for the Sikorsky S-22 Muromets bomber. You can also take the other planes, I think. Or not? No, not yet. Not yet. It only lets you take the Sikorsky as of now. So you see there's going to be a 10 mission campaign for that plane. There are no single missions as of yet. They're probably going to be in the release version. But you can use the quick mission. This is also quite similar, or exactly the same as in Rise of Flight. You have different stations to choose from, if you want to call them that. You've got the dual positions here where you pretty much choose just an aircraft for yourself and an enemy plane to go up against. Then there's skirmish, where you can actually make multiple flight engagements. And last but not least, there's also survive. In duel, this is pretty much, survive is pretty much like duel, except that in the survival mode you will have multiple waves of attackers. So you can set up here the amount of waves, 1 to 5, or a random number. But other than that, it's exactly the same as duel. But for the sake of this video, I'm going to go into skirmish mode and pick the Sikorsky S-22 no opposition. I just want to show you what it's like. And I'm going to start the mission and we'll have a look at the aircraft. By the way, besides the Sikorsky Muromets bomber, there's also 7 other planes that you can fly. There's 3 different types of albatrosses. There's the Newport 11 and 17, the Spad 7, 150 horsepower, the Roland C2 twin-seater, and the DFW C5 twin-seater, all of which come with the entire load of field mods and weapons modifications, so you don't have to pay them separately like in Rise of Flight. The loadout screen is also exactly the same as in Rise of Flight. You pick your fuel, your conversions. You can pick the bomb loadout. I'm going to take 10 times 2 bombs. Other than that, the Muromets does not have any kind of fancy extras. There's no field mods or weapons mods so far. I'm not sure if this is going to be kept like this, if there's going to be some optional loadouts, but right now this is how it is. Okay, so I'm going to jump into the plane and show you a takeoff, bombing some random targets and the landing. Okay, so we are now sitting in the Ilya Muromets in the pilot seat. You can see the interior is quite detailed. Looking around, this looks quite fancy. You have a cockpit between your legs. We have the steering wheel in front. This is quite a change from other aircraft. You actually get a car-like steering wheel, and so to roll left and right you turn the wheel, and to climb or dive down you just push it or pull it towards you. We also have a few gauges here. These are, I think, revolutions per minute for the engine. We have different fuel cogs. I think these are the magneto switches for the engine, all of which you don't really have to care about in the Muromets. What is this? I think, is this some kind of altimeter, right? I think at least. And looking behind, we can actually even see the bomb racks. You can see here we have 10 bombs, I think. Yep. And we can actually open the bomb bay, which is going to bring the bomb rack up into position to drop them actually. As you can see, this is quite detailed. I like the interior of the Muromets a lot. The plane has a lot of character. And looking outside, we can actually see all of the engines. This is the first 4-engine plane that's ever been released on the Rise of Flight engine, which is quite a novelty. And there's also a second position, which is that of the bomber gunner. But unfortunately, right now in Ilya Muromets, the AI has the nasty habit to actually start the engines and take off by itself once you get into the gunner position on the ground. And also in the air, if you jump into the gunner position, the AI will take over and do all sorts of kinky stuff. So I prefer to stay in the cockpit position and leave the gunnery to the AI, because I don't know what the AI is going to do when it takes over the aircraft. This is also quite a change from Rise of Flight, because it's never done that for me personally. Okay, so I am going to try and take off this thing. Unfortunately, we have quite a few trees right ahead of us, which means I am going to try and turn to the right, which is kind of tricky because you have to advance the throttle, push the nose down, and try and turn around on just 2 wheels. But first of all, I'm going to show you the exterior of this aircraft. As you can see, being a World War I aircraft, it's full of struts and wires. Doesn't look as fancy or thought through like the World War II planes, because basically back then nobody actually had a real idea what an aircraft had to look like. So aircraft engineers just went ahead and did what they thought looked like a good aircraft. And yeah, I think the Muromets, while not being aesthetically as pleasing like a Spitfire, so it has its good looks. I do like it. Another thing to take take notice of is that the gunner, as you can see here, he's actually sitting on top of the fuel tanks, which are these two copper tubes, and they're pretty much the biggest weak point of the entire aircraft. I'm going to later on show you a dogfight between me and a reoccurring Sikorsky Muromets, and in 3 duels I managed to blow these tanks up 3 out of 3, and when you blow these things up it pretty much messes the plane up beyond recognition, so there's no chance the aircraft actually survives that. So with a little bit of careful aiming you can take this aircraft down very easily. It doesn't take as much as the big bombers in Rise of Flight, the Gotha or the Handley Page. So, okay, let's go ahead and try to take off. So I'm advancing the throttle, I am pushing the nose down, I'm giving full right rudder and right aileron, because pushing the aileron to the fully right position will also make the plane turn in that direction, because the aileron will actually point upwards and push the aircraft that way. And now I'm doing the exact opposite. We've actually managed to turn around. I just need to get out of the way of those hangars now. Okay. So, when you finally found a direction you want to take off, all you pretty much have to do is just point straight ahead, and the aircraft, as you can see, will pretty much take off on its own accord. Doesn't really take much to get this thing into the air. And once it's in the air, it's actually quite nice handling. It's nowhere near as twitchy as, for example, the Gotha, which can actually be a real handful, especially when you get slow for a landing approach. Because the Gotha has sort of an inverse aileron effect going, where upon descending below a certain speed, rolling left will actually more like yaw your aircraft than rolling it, and actually on finals to coordinate your plane and your left-right you actually have to use the ailerons, not the rudder, because using a lot of rudder at low speeds in the Gotha will fairly easily make the aircraft go into a spin. But the Ilya Muromets is very nice handling. So, as you can see, we are here on the Eastern Front map that's actually included right now. This is the summer edition of it. There's also an autumn and winter version. I myself, I've always been a fan of the autumn versions of any map, because I kind of like this brownish look to them. The green and the whitish winter version, I think they get old quite quickly. I've always had a place in my heart for the autumn versions. Okay, as said, we can actually open the bomb bay here. Bomb racks move into position, and I'm just having a look where we can actually go to actually bomb something. By the way, this is the new instrument panel, if you want to call it that. Its design is quite a bit different from what you are used to from Rise of Flight. There's actually a fuel gauge, and I don't know, the airspeed isn't working for some reason. Compass, altimeter, everything that you really need, but I usually prefer flying with everything switched off. You can either switch everything off by hitting Ctrl H, which will disable the entire head-up display, but the downside to this is that in multiplayer you don't get to see the chat messages, and also if something happens, like a server side message, this and that target has been destroyed, that will also be not displayed. So it's usually better to just manually switch off the instrument panel and the map, and you can bring them up separately whenever you feel you have the need. Okay, anybody wants to get bombed? I don't know. Oh, my tracker was twitching there for a second. I have some windows to my left, which sometimes interfere with tracker IR, which can be a pain in the ass, especially in the afternoon when the sun is standing in the most inconvenient spot for me. It's going to give me a lot of problems flying with track IR. Okay, I'm going to be a mean person and going to try and bomb the city here, and I'm going to show you what the bomb site in the Muromets looks like. It's pretty much a generic bomb site. It's the same as in every aircraft in ROF. What we have here is we have to select altitude and speed, and we can also give the level autopilot commands like go left, go right, go dead ahead. Don't know, did I open bomb bay? Yeah, I did. Okay. Okay. One bomb out. Second one. And the third. I think all of our bombs landed dead on where we aimed them yet. That's the third one, yeah. There's the bomb. So these bomb sites are fairly easy to use. As said, you get the same bomb site on every plane in ROF, and pretty much any multi-seater has them, from a rather small twin-seater like the DFW up to the Muromets. You always get this same bomb site. What's also interesting here is you get 3 types of levers to drop bombs. The first one drops one at a time. This one drops them in pairs, and with this one you'll drop every bomb you have. Okay, so we still have a lot of bombs on the aircraft, so I'm going to get rid of them before I'm going to go for a landing. So we're turning around. Let's see if we can get some more on the target. Okay, target's coming up. Dropping the first two. Dropping another pair. And getting rid of everything else. And you can see the bombs falling. First one was spot on. The other three should come in somewhere here. Yeah. I think I may have set up too high a speed in the bomb sight, but other than that, it was just fine. Okay, so I am going to land this thing, or at least try, which is, I think, the second time I've ever tried to land. This first one was pretty successful. Let's keep fingers crossed this time will be as successful. Okay, we have the airfield to 3 o'clock, and I'm going to try and turn onto finals. I'm going to fly a little further out here. I don't want to land directly over the hangars. And as with most other heavy aircraft in Rise of Flight, the controls get a little spongy once you descend below a certain speed range. So you have to keep an eye on that and be careful on the controls. You can't throw it around like a fighter. It's not as forgiving. Okay, so I've idled the throttle coming in. I'm going to flare out in a few. Well, I think that was quite a successful landing. We did come in at a little bit too high, too steep an angle. But as you could see, the aircraft was kind of shaking and it didn't really have much of a control authority at that speed and altitude. So I couldn't really do anything about it, but it looks like the aircraft is still more or less intact. Okay, so this is a very quick and dirty inside look into Ilya Muromets. And I'm going to show you a short dogfight I had with the 3 Muromets, and it's going to show you how fragile or vulnerable this bomber really is. Maybe I got a little bit lucky when I went ahead against it 3 times in a row and they all exploded in the air, but overall I have the feeling this is going to be an easier target than a Handley Page or a Gotha, which really command your respect in Rise of Flight, not only because they take a lot of punishment, but they can also dish it out because they have multiple gunner positions. Okay, so the dogfight will be uncommented, so I hope you guys like this video, and I'm going to see you in the next one.